Where did you get the original? I've looked everywhere, Mom. Everywhere. I don't know what to tell you.
My son couldn't find the safe key on my 75th birthday. He stood in my hallway with his hands in his pockets, shaking his head like he'd misplaced car keys. Not the key to my life savings. Not the key to the papers my late husband told me to protect like they were air. I've looked everywhere, Mom. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just looked at the empty loop on my keyring where that safe key used to hang, and I made a decision. I called a locksmith. The drill chewed into metal for what felt like forever. My son watched from the doorway, arms crossed, jaw tight, like he was waiting for the moment I'd give up and ask him again. When the door finally opened, the air that came out smelled like dust and machine oil. Inside were stacks of paper bound with rubber bands. Envelopes in my husband's handwriting, each one stamped with a single word, original. I pulled the top envelope toward me. My hands didn't shake. They should have. The first page had my name and a signature that looked like mine. Until I stared long enough to see the crooked angle my hand never made. And down at the bottom, there was a notary date that made my stomach go cold. My son didn't step closer. He didn't even breathe right. He just froze in my doorway, like the safe had opened onto something alive. And when I saw what he'd been so afraid of me touching, I finally understood what help had really meant. If you've ever been made to feel like a guest in your own home, you'll understand what happened next. Stay with me. Before I continue, make sure you are subscribed to my channel and write in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love knowing how far our stories are traveling. It started 3 weeks after my husband's funeral. I was sorting through condolence cards when my son arrived with a casserole his wife had made. He set it on the counter and sat across from me at my kitchen table, like this was a meeting, not a visit. Mom, I've been thinking, you shouldn't be dealing with all this alone. By all this, he meant the bills, the bank accounts, the property taxes, the quarterly statements my husband used to review upstairs in his office, every single season like a ritual. I can handle it, I told him. I know you can, but you don't have to. He smiled, the same patient, reasonable smile he wore as a boy right before he asked for something he shouldn't. I mistook it for love. I thought he was protecting his grieving mother from a world that suddenly felt too big. I didn't know help could become a cage. He started small. He offered to pick up my mail when he stopped by. Said it would save me the walk to the mailbox. I was 72, not an invalid, but I let him. It felt comforting being looked after. Then he offered to set up automatic bill pay. Easier, he said. Less for you to worry about. I gave him access to my checking account while he clicked through screens on his laptop at my kitchen table. Screens I didn't fully understand because I didn't think I needed to. All set, he said. You won't have to think about it again. I thanked him. I made him coffee. And I didn't notice what he'd changed until 3 months later. It was a Saturday morning in June. I was looking for my quarterly investment statement. My husband kept them in a blue folder always, like he was afraid the paper itself might disappear. I'd gotten one in March. Nothing had arrived since. I called the brokerage. A young woman pulled up my account and said, Mrs. Patterson, we've been mailing statements to 428 Maple Street, Unit 2B. That was my son's apartment. That's not my address, I said. The change was submitted online April 9th from a device with joint access. She put me on hold. When she returned, her voice softened, the way people speak when they're trying not to sound alarmed. Would you like me to update the address back to your residence? Yes. I hung up and stared at my own kitchen wall. April 9th, the same day my son sat right here and told me I wouldn't have to think about it again. By the time I noticed, 3 months had passed. I didn't confront him, not then. I told myself it was a mistake, a wrong box checked, an innocent slip. I wanted to believe him. I needed to, but I started paying attention. 2 weeks later, he asked for a spare house key. "Just in case," he said. "If you fall, if there's an emergency, I don't want to break a window to get to you." I handed it over because the sentence sounded responsible. Because mothers are trained to hear worry as love. After that, the keys began to move in my life like pieces on a board. One afternoon, I needed to open my safe. My husband kept the deed inside, the car title, a few old bonds from his father's estate. The safe sat in the hallway closet, behind winter coats, exactly where it had always been. I reached for the key on my ring, and the ring felt lighter. The safe key was gone. I searched the house. I checked every drawer, every pocket, every dish by the sink. Nothing. I called my son. "I can't find the safe key." "Did you check your purse?" "I checked everywhere." He sighed like I was making him do work he didn't have time for. "I'll bring the spare tomorrow, Mom. I think you gave it to me last month." I didn't remember giving him a spare, but I was tired, and grief makes your memory feel like a room with the lights off. "Okay," I said. "Tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. The next day, he couldn't find it. A week later, he was still looking. "Don't worry," he said. "If you need something from the safe, just tell me what it is. I'll help you get another copy." Another copy. As if originals were replaceable. As if my husband's handwriting could be printed again. I didn't say what I really needed. I said, "Okay." I said thank you. And then I stood in my hallway, staring at that closet door, and realized I had to ask my son for permission to touch my own life. Then came the passwords. In late August, my son called with concern in his voice. Concern that sounded practiced. "Mom, I got an alert from your bank. Someone tried to log into your account from an unrecognized device." "That was me," I said. "I was checking my balance." "Oh, well, the bank flagged it. We should update your security settings. Make it harder for scammers." He walked me through it. New password, new security questions, 2-factor authentication. "I'll link it to my phone," he said. "That way, if anyone tries to log in, I'll get the code and I can verify it's really you." "Why not my phone?" "Yours is older, Mom. Texts don't always come through. Mine is safer." His wife's voice drifted in the background, soft, sweet, dangerous. "She gets mixed up lately," she murmured like she was talking about a child. I didn't argue. I let them do it. A week later, I tried to log in to check a charge. The website asked for a verification code. I waited. Nothing came to my phone. I tried again. Still nothing. Then I understood. The code wasn't coming to me. It was going to him. Even the recovery contact, phone, email, had been changed to information I didn't recognize until I stared long enough. I couldn't even reset my own password. My 75th birthday fell on a Tuesday in October. I didn't want a party. I told my son that. But he insisted, the way he always did when he'd already decided. His wife had already bought a cake. They arrived at 6 with a chocolate cake and a bottle of wine I wouldn't drink. My daughter-in-law set the cake on my dining room table. My table, the one my husband and I had chosen 40 years ago, and arranged the candles in a perfect circle like she was staging a photograph. 75, she said, smiling. "That's a milestone, isn't it?" I watched her light the candles one by one. The flames made small, nervous shadows on the wall. The dining room felt cold, despite the heat running. My son pulled out a chair for me. The legs scraped against the floor. I sat. They sat across from me, side by side, shoulders almost touching, like a united front. "Make a wish, Mom." I leaned forward and blew. Smoke curled upward and disappeared. My son clapped once. My daughter-in-law cut the cake. The knife scraped against the plate. "So," my son said, like he'd been waiting for the candles to go out. "We've been thinking, now that you're 75, it might be time to simplify things." I looked at him. Simplify what? Your finances, your paperwork, all the things Dad used to handle. My daughter-in-law slid a plate toward me, cake I hadn't asked for. "You're doing great, Mom, really, but it's a lot for one person, especially at your age." At your age, the words sat between us like a wet coat. "I'm managing fine," I said. "Of course you are," my son said quickly. "But what if something happens? What if someone takes advantage of you?" "Who would take advantage of me?" He smiled, patient, reasonable. "Scammers, Mom. You hear about it all the time. Older people losing everything." I set my fork down. "I'm not confused. No one said you were." His voice stayed gentle. That was the part that made it feel rehearsed. He reached into his bag and pulled out a manila folder. He set it on the table between us like a centerpiece. "We had some documents drawn up," he said, "just to make things easier." He opened the folder, legal-sized pages, typed, my name at the top. "What is this?" "An updated power of attorney," he said. "This one lets me handle your accounts if you're unable to." I stared at the paper. I never signed a power of attorney. "You did," he said without blinking. "After Dad died. You don't remember?" Those first months had been a fog, yes, but not that kind of fog. "This one's more comprehensive," he continued, flipping to another page. "Accounts, investments, property, everything. And this," he slid out a second document, "is a beneficiary form for your life insurance. We should update it." "Update it how?" "Dad's gone. I'm your primary caregiver now." Primary caregiver. I lived alone. I cooked my own meals. I paid my own groceries. "I don't need a caregiver," I said. "Not yet," my daughter-in-law murmured, eyes on the paper, not on me. "But eventually, you'll want everything in order." The candles had burned down to stubs. Wax pooled at the base like something melting under pressure. "I need to think about this," I said. My son's smile tightened. "There's nothing to think about. It's just paperwork. You trust me, don't you?" In my mind, I saw April 9th. I saw the missing investment statements. I saw the verification codes that stopped coming to my phone. I saw the empty space where the safe key used to hang. "I need time," I said. "Time for what?" His voice sharpened just slightly. "If you can't manage simple paperwork, maybe we need to talk about whether you should be living alone." "What do you mean?" "Options," he said. "Assisted living, nursing homes." "I'm not going anywhere." "Not yet," he said. "But if you can't handle a few forms, I can handle it. Then sign them." I picked up the pen. My hand shook, not because I was weak, but because I finally understood what the paper was for. "Actually," I said, and set the pen down, "I'd like my attorney to review these first." "Your attorney?" He laughed once without warmth. "You don't have an attorney?" "I can get one." His jaw tightened. "Mom, attorneys are expensive. I'm trying to help you." "Then you won't mind if someone else looks at it." "Fine," he said, snapping the folder shut. "Take your time. Just don't wait too long." They stood. My daughter-in-law gathered plates without meeting my eyes. They left the folder on my table. They left the cake half-eaten, like a prop nobody needed anymore. At the door, my son kissed my cheek. His lips were cold. "Happy birthday, Mom." When they were gone, I locked the door and stood in my hallway. I looked at the closet where the safe sat behind the winter coats, the safe I couldn't open, the safe that held the originals my husband trusted more than anyone. I called my son the next morning. "About the safe key," I said. "I really need it." "I'm still looking," he said too fast. "Why? What do you need from the safe?" "I need to see the documents, the ones Dad left." "If you need something, just tell me what it is. I'll help you track down a copy." "No, I need the originals." He went quiet for a moment, then, Maybe we should call a locksmith. Okay, I said. I'll call one today. Actually, let me handle it, he cut in. I know a guy. I'll set it up. I can call. Mom, you don't need to worry about it. I'll take care of it, just like I take care of everything else. He hung up before I could argue. 2 days passed, then 3. No locksmith called. No appointment was made. When I pressed him, he had an excuse ready. Traveling, busy, booked out, lost the number. Tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. So I opened my phone book, yes, I still kept one, and dialed the first locksmith listing. Able Lock and Key. I need someone to open a safe, I said. He asked my address. He said he could come Thursday at 10. I gave him my name and hung up. My hands were steady this time. I didn't tell my son. I didn't ask his permission. I just did it. Because I realized I'd been asking permission to live my own life. Permission to check my bank. Permission to receive my mail. Permission to open my own safe in my own house. And that's when I stopped waiting for him to remember. Thursday morning came cold and bright. I woke at 6 and sat at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee I barely tasted. The calendar lay open beside my hand. October 23rd, 10 o'clock. I'd written it in pencil first, like I was afraid to commit. Then I'd traced over it in ink, because fear was exactly why I had to. My son didn't know. I had stopped telling him things weeks ago. Small things at first, a doctor's appointment, a lunch with a neighbor, then bigger ones, a bank call, a password reset attempt. Anything that could be turned into another lecture about what I couldn't manage. I stared at that 10 o'clock and thought about my husband. Robert and I had been married 43 years when he died, and he was gone 3 years by the time I finally understood the promise he'd made me repeat out loud. Keep the originals safe. Never let anyone hold the only copy. I used to think he was being cautious in the way older men sometimes were, like the world was always one bad day, away from taking what you'd built. But Robert hadn't been worried about burglars. He'd been worried about family. I'd seen what happened when his mother died. His brother had shown up with documents, important-looking papers with stamped seals and a confident signature at the bottom. He said he had power of attorney. He said he had executor rights. He said Robert had agreed. Robert hadn't agreed. He'd hired a lawyer. He'd fought. He'd spent months in offices that smelled like toner and old carpet, while people told him, gently, that paperwork had weight, even when it was wrong. And by the time the courts were done, his brother had sold their mother's house and disappeared to Florida. Robert never spoke to him again. After that, he started treating paper the way other people treated jewelry. When we bought our first house, he put the deed in a safe. He did the same with our wills, life insurance, stock certificates, every document that proved what we owned and who had the right to touch it. If something happens to me, he had said one night, while he slid a thick envelope into a file folder, you make sure you can get to these. Don't let anyone tell you they'll keep them safe for you. These papers are your power. You guard them. I'd nodded. I'd promised. And for years, it felt like a promise I'd never have to cash in. Now I was 75, sitting alone at my kitchen table, and I finally understood. The safe didn't hold assets. It held my name. And someone had been trying to take that name away from me, one key at a time. I finished my coffee and walked down the hallway to the coat closet. The safe sat low in the floor, brushed steel, a small keyhole that looked almost polite. I pushed the coats aside and knelt. There were scratches around the lock, not the faint kind you get from normal use. These were fresh, angry, like someone had tried the key and then tried force when the key didn't appear. My throat tightened. He had told me the key was lost, but the safe looked like someone had been impatient about it. I stood up slowly, the way I did when my knees were stiff, and closed the closet door like I hadn't seen anything at all. Because this was the part Robert had never taught me. The part you only learn when you're backed into a corner. If you show your hand too early, the other person starts moving pieces you can't see. So I went back into the kitchen and began preparing like I was going to court, even though no one had filed anything yet. I laid out my driver's license, a recent utility bill with my address, my checkbook, still in my name, a folder of old mail I'd been hoarding since the day the bank statements stopped arriving, my phone charger, and then, before I could talk myself out of it, I called the locksmith. A man answered on the second ring. Able lock and key. My name is Margaret Patterson, I said. I need someone to open a floor safe in my home. There was a pause, just long enough for him to decide what kind of call this was. Do you have proof it's your safe, ma'am? Yes. ID, a bill, something with the address. I have it. All right, what's the make? I don't know, I admitted. It was installed years ago. My husband handled it. Okay, he said, practical. If it's a key lock and the key is gone, we'll likely have to drill. It'll ruin the lock. That's fine. And you understand, once we drill it, whoever has the safe key won't matter anymore. Whoever has the safe key. I felt a small, sharp relief at that sentence. Yes, I said. I understand. What time can we come? I glanced at the clock. 8:12. My son worked Thursdays. He left the house at 9 and didn't return until after 5. At least, that's what he told me. I'd stopped trusting what he told me, but I still trusted patterns. 10 o'clock, I said. Can you come at 10? We can. And I hesitated, hearing my own heartbeat in the quiet kitchen. I need you to come alone. Another pause. We usually send 2. I'm asking you not to. Is someone in the home who shouldn't be? Yes, I said, and that was the most truthful thing I'd said out loud in months. But they won't be here at 10. All right, Mrs. Patterson, he said, voice a little lower now. 10 o'clock, 1 technician. I wrote it down, even though it was already carved into my mind. When I hung up, my hands were steady. That surprised me. I had thought I would be shaking, that fear would make me small. Instead, fear made me organized. Still, there was one more thing Robert had always done before he acted. He called the person who knew the rules, so I pulled out his old address book, the one with faded ink and dog-eared corners, and found the name I hadn't said in 3 years, Jim Bradshaw, Robert's attorney, the man who had built our trust the way other people built fences. I dialed, Bradshaw Law Office. This is Margaret Patterson, I said. My husband was Robert Patterson. A beat of recognition, then warmth. Margaret, Jim said, I haven't heard from you since Robert's service. Is everything all right? No, I said, and my voice didn't break. It's not. I told him what had been happening, the missing mail, the changed passwords, the way my son kept my keys like they were his right, the birthday dinner, the papers he'd pushed toward me, the way he'd said I'd signed something I didn't remember signing. Jim didn't interrupt. He let me speak, which was its own kind of mercy. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. Margaret, he said, you understand this isn't just family conflict. This is control and potentially exploitation. I swallowed. He says he has power of attorney. Even if he did, Jim said, calm and precise, power of attorney doesn't mean he owns you. It doesn't mean he can rewrite beneficiaries or move assets however he wants. And if you're competent, and you clearly are, you can revoke it. What if the document is forged? I asked. There was silence on the line, and in that silence I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Validation. If those documents are forged, Jim said, we have a case. I went back to the safe and pulled out every document, carrying them to the dining room table. Deed, will, trust, power of attorney, insurance, stocks, bank statements, my husband's note. 40 years of our life, laid out where my son had told me I was too old to manage paperwork. I picked up my phone and photographed every page, every signature, every date, 63 photos. I uploaded them to the cloud. Then I went to the drugstore and made 3 sets of copies, one for the attorney, one for my records, one for a new safe deposit box. By 1:30, I was ready. I changed into a dress. I needed to feel like myself. Margaret Patterson, homeowner, nobody's fool. I drove to Jim Bradshaw's office, 3rd floor, brick building downtown. The receptionist waved me in. Jim stood when I entered. 70, white hair, kind eyes. "Margaret, thank you for coming." I sat and set the folder on his desk. He read, page after page. His jaw tightened at the power of attorney. He made a note at the trust's abuse clause. Finally, he looked up. "Do you have the documents your son gave you?" I pulled them from my purse, the manila folder, still sealed. Jim opened it, read, then laid the papers beside the originals from my safe. "These aren't the same," he said. "What do you mean?" He pointed to my son's document. "This one is dated October 14th, 2022. It grants him full authority, no restrictions. Property, beneficiaries, even trust access." He tapped the original from the safe. "This one is dated 2018, limited, conditional on incapacity, with restrictions your husband clearly intended." I sat back. My hands went cold. So the one he wanted me to sign would have replaced the limited one. "Yes," Jim said, "and it would give him far more control than Robert ever intended." He leaned closer to the 2022 pages, eyes narrowing. "And the notarization language here doesn't show a clear witness trail," he said quietly. "No indication you appeared in person. If you didn't sign in front of a notary, this is vulnerable. And if someone submitted it as if you did, then we're looking at fraud." My throat tightened. "The beneficiary paperwork is the same story," he added, sliding another page forward. "It attempts to redirect benefits away from you." I stared at the paper until the words blurred. "What do we do first?" I asked. "First," Jim said, already pulling out a form, "we revoke any and all powers of attorney. Even the limited one. You don't need it. You're sitting here making sound decisions." He filled in my name with deliberate strokes and slid the form toward me. "Sign here. This revokes any authority effective immediately." I signed. My signature was clear, steady, mine. Jim witnessed it, made copies, and slid the original into a folder marked Patterson, urgent. "Second," he said, standing, "we go to your bank today." "Today?" I echoed. "Yes," he said, "before anyone can move anything else. We'll lock down access, open a formal case, and put safeguards in place. The deeper forensic review will come after that." The bank was 10 minutes away. I sat with the folder on my lap, feeling lighter than I had in years. Jim walked to the counter. "We need to speak with the branch manager. It's urgent." A woman came out, professional, composed. "Linda Chen, branch manager. How can I help?" Jim handed her his card. "I'm representing Mrs. Patterson. We need to open a fraud investigation case and remove unauthorized access from her accounts." Linda's expression changed immediately. "Please come into my office." Before she even touched the keyboard, she asked for my ID. Then she asked something I didn't expect. "Mrs. Patterson, are you here willingly? Is anyone pressuring you to change account access today?" "No," I said. "I'm here because I need my accounts back." Linda nodded once, professional, steady. "All right," she said. "We can do that. We'll open a formal case with our fraud department, lock down online access, and remove any joint authority. Then they'll conduct the full review." Jim placed the revocation on her desk. "This was signed today," he said. "Effective immediately. We need it noted on file." Linda scanned it, then reached for a packet of forms. "First," she said, We're closing any accounts with joint access and opening new accounts in Mrs. Patterson's name only. New account numbers, new login, new credentials. I swallowed. He set up my online access. He has the passwords. Then we treat those credentials as compromised, Linda said. We'll disable online banking on the old profile and set up a new one under your control only. She turned the screen slightly away from me, not secrecy, just policy, while she worked. Second, she continued, I'll file an elder financial exploitation report internally. Our fraud team will contact you and your attorney with findings. If any outside reporting is needed, they'll coordinate through the appropriate channels. Jim nodded. Good. Linda slid a form toward me. This is an affidavit stating you did not authorize changes or access, she said. Please read and sign. I signed. Again, clear, steady, mine. It took an hour. Linda closed my old accounts and opened new ones. She set up new online access with a new password. We'll choose security questions only you would know, she said. I chose details from my childhood, answers my son couldn't guess because they existed before he did. When we were done, Linda handed me a packet. This is your fraud case number, she said. Keep it. Someone from our team will call within 48 hours. No one can access these accounts except you. She slid her card across the desk. If your son contacts you about access, she said, refer him to me. Don't share any new account details. I took her card and held it like it was a key. Jim walked me to my car. The sun was lowering. You did well, he said. I don't feel like I did anything, I admitted. You did everything, he said. You got the originals. You came in person. You created a record. He handed me a folder. This is the revocation. Keep it somewhere safe, not in your house. I'll put it in the new safe deposit box, I said. Good, Jim replied. And don't tell your son what you've done. Not yet. Let the process work. Prepare for what? I asked. Jim's mouth tightened, just slightly, for when he realizes he's lost. I drove home with the folder beside me, revocation, the fraud case packet, Linda's card, Jim's notes. The house looked the same brick, same door, but everything was different. I had the originals, I had an attorney, I had a bank case opened in my name, and for the first time in years, only I had the key. The bank called 2 days later. I was making tea when the phone rang, one sharp vibration against the counter, then the polite, relentless chime. Mrs. Patterson, a man said, this is Mark Nguyen with First National's fraud investigations. Linda Chen forwarded your case. Case ID FN 2411 1872. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Yes, I said, and my voice sounded steadier than I felt. I've reviewed your accounts for the last 24 months, he continued. I need to walk you through what we found. I sat at the kitchen table. I pulled out a notepad, the kind I used to keep by the phone when my husband paid bills. Go ahead, I said. We analyzed device IDs, IP addresses, login timestamps, Mark said, professional and careful. Between April of 2023 and October of 2024, there were 147 online banking logins from a device not registered to you, an iPhone tied to the joint account holder. My son, I said. Yes, Mark replied, as if he'd been expecting me to name him out loud. 83 of those logins occurred between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I wrote it down. 10 p.m., 2 a.m., 83 logins. On April 9th, he said, the mailing address was changed to 428 Maple Street, Unit 2B at 11:47 p.m. from that same device. My son's apartment, I said. I didn't authorize that. We also found 3 wire transfer templates that were created and later deleted, he said. They were never executed, but they were set up with destination accounts and amounts. My pen paused. 25,000 to Capital Investment Group, he continued. $50,000 to Regional Savings Bank, and $75,000 to an international beneficiary bank registered in the Cayman Islands. I stopped writing entirely. $75,000? I repeated. Yes, Mark said. The Cayman template was created on October 10th, 4 days before the power of attorney document you described is dated. Taken together, the templates totaled $150,000. My fingers went cold around the pen. But they weren't executed, I said. No, he answered. Our system flagged them as high risk and generated an alert. But here's another issue. The email on file that should have received that alert had been changed to the joint holder's email address. My stomach tightened. So he got the warning, I said. Yes, Mark replied. And our logs show the templates were deleted afterward. That tells us the person who created them understood they were being watched. I swallowed. The tea kettle behind me clicked as it cooled, a small sound in a suddenly loud room. Mrs. Patterson, he said, his tone shifting, still professional, but heavier now. This pattern, late-night access, address changes, email rerouting, attempted wire setup, matches what financial institutions are trained to look for in elder financial exploitation. I stared at my notes. Numbers, times, dates, a life reduced to timestamps. What happens now? I asked. We've already opened a formal investigation, Mark said. We'll compile a complete audit package, device and IP logs, change history, template creation and deletion events, and any related access attempts. We'll provide it to you and your attorney. And my son? I asked, and hated that my voice still wanted to soften the word. His profile will be flagged for enhanced review, Mark said. I can't predict outcomes beyond our institution, but internally, this will restrict what he can do that here going forward. I wrote that down too. Flagged, restricted. Do I need to do anything? I asked. Not right now, he said. Do not share information about your new accounts. If the joint holder contacts you about access, do not engage. Refer him to Linda Chen or to me. I exhaled slowly. Mrs. Patterson, Mark added, and for the first time his voice sounded almost human. You did the right thing. Many people don't call until the money is gone. I hung up. I sat at the table with the notepad in front of me. 147 logins, 83 at night, 150,000 in wire templates. An email change so he could catch the alerts before I ever saw them. I called Jim Bradshaw immediately. Jim, I said, the bank found wire templates, one of them international. They have logs for everything. Good, Jim said, and I could hear the satisfaction. Not petty, not vengeful, just procedural relief. That's what we need. They opened a formal investigation, I added. They're compiling the audit package. Perfect, Jim said. Then we move to the next step. What's the next step? I asked, though I already knew. Service, he said. You signed the revocation in my office. Now my office is going to serve it properly. Certified mail, return receipt, along with a cease and desist and a demand for accounting. A demand for what? I asked. For a written accounting of everything he touched, Jim said. Passwords, address changes, access, attempted transfers, anything. We're putting him on formal notice that he has no authority. And we're demanding he return any keys, documents, or copies he has. My hands tightened around the phone. He'll be angry, I said quietly. Yes, Jim replied. He'll claim you're confused. He'll say he was helping. Don't argue the story with him. Stick to procedure. And Margaret, if he shows up, don't let him in. Call me. If you feel unsafe, call the police. I understand, I said. This is the hard part, Jim continued. The part where people try to pull you back into the old pattern. Don't go. 2 days later, Jim called again. Notice delivered this morning, he said. 9:43 a.m. your son signed for it. My throat went tight. What now? I asked. Now we wait, Jim said. I didn't wait long. My son called at 11. I was in the living room. His name flashed on the caller ID like a warning I'd finally learned to read. I let it ring. Voicemail. 30 seconds later, again, then again. He called 6 times in 10 minutes. On the 7th call, I answered. Not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted him to hear my voice when I said what I was going to say. "Hello?" I said. "Mom?" His voice was tight, controlled the way it got when he was trying not to show panic. "What the hell is this?" "What is what?" I asked, because I wasn't giving him the lead. "This letter," he snapped, "from a lawyer saying you're revoking my power of attorney, saying I'm not allowed to access your accounts, saying I engaged in financial exploitation." "That's correct," I said. A beat of silence, as if he'd expected me to apologize. "That's correct," he repeated louder. "Mom, what are you talking about? I've been helping you, managing your bills, protecting you." "From what?" I asked. "From scammers," he said quickly. "From people who would take advantage of you." "Like you?" I said. Silence. "What?" he said, and his voice cracked at the edge of the word. "I said," I repeated, "like you." "Mom, I don't know what someone has told you, but you need to listen to me," he said, slipping into the script I'd heard before. "You're confused. You're not thinking clearly. This is exactly why we needed to update the power of attorney, so I could make decisions for you when you—" "When I what?" I cut in. "When I'm too old to understand what you're doing." "I didn't say that," he insisted. "You didn't have to," I said. "You said it at my birthday. You said it when you brought those documents. You said if I couldn't handle simple paperwork, maybe we needed to talk about options, nursing homes, whether I should be living alone." He went quiet. "I was trying to help you," he said finally, softer now. "No," I said. "You were trying to control me." "That's not true." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue feelings. I said one sentence. "I have the originals," I said. "What?" His breath hitched, just barely. "I have the originals," I repeated. "The deed, the will, the trust, the power of attorney from 2018, the limited one. The one I can revoke at any time. And I did." "Mom, you don't understand what you're doing," he said, but the words didn't land the same anymore. "I understand perfectly," I said. "I understand you changed my mailing address to your apartment. I understand wire templates were created on my accounts. I understand you tried to push a document dated October 14th. And I have plane tickets proving I was out of state. I understand everything." Silence, long silence. When he spoke again, his voice was different, quieter, almost a whisper. "Who told you this?" "No one told me," I said. "I figured it out, and then I got into the safe, the one you couldn't find the key for. I called a locksmith. He opened it, and I found everything." "You can't do this," he said. "I already did," I replied. "Mom, please," he said, and now I could hear it. Fear, not outrage. "We need to talk. I'm coming over." "No," I said. "What?" "You're not welcome in my house," I said. "If you show up, I'll call the police." "I'm your son," he said, as if that was a password that should unlock me. "And I'm your mother," I said. "Not your bank account, not your retirement plan, your mother." I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from something else, something I hadn't felt in years. Power. An hour later, my daughter-in-law called. "Margaret, it's Susan," she said carefully. "I talked to him. He's upset." "I imagine he is," I said. "He said you got a lawyer," she continued, "that you're accusing him of stealing." "I'm not accusing," I said. "I have proof." A pause. "Margaret, I think there's been a misunderstanding," she tried. "Ask him about the wire templates," I said. "Ask him why the emails were changed. Ask him why he logged in at midnight. Ask him why he needed a document dated October 14th when I wasn't even in the state." She went quiet. "I didn't know about any of that," she whispered. "Then maybe you should ask him," I said. I hung up. That night, I sat in my kitchen with tea I didn't drink. I thought about my husband's note. Trust no one with these. Keep the originals. He had known love could be used as a weapon, but he'd also known something else, that paper could be armor. And one sentence could change who had power in a room. I said one sentence. I have the originals. The first sign came 3 days later. Eleanor knocked with a casserole dish, holding it like an excuse. I made too much, she said. Thought you might want some. I knew what she was doing, checking on me without saying the word check. Thank you, I said. She didn't step inside. Her eyes flicked down the street. Margaret, I saw your son's car yesterday, parked down the block. He sat there almost an hour. Didn't get out. I know, I said. Do you want me to call someone? No. I kept my voice calm. He knows if he comes to the door, I'll call the police. Eleanor nodded once and left. I watched her walk away, then stood at my window longer than I needed to. The street was empty, but I didn't feel alone, not anymore. The second sign came from Susan. She called the next day. Her voice was quieter, stripped of certainty. Margaret, she said, I need you to be honest with me. Did he really set up wire transfers, offshore? Yes, I said. The bank found templates, $75,000 to the Cayman Islands, $50,000 to an account in his name. Silence. I didn't know, she whispered. I believe you, I said, and I did. But you need to look for yourself. I looked at our finances last night, she said. There are accounts I've never seen. He told me they were for business. When I asked questions, he got angry. He said I was letting you turn me against him. What do you think? I asked. A long breath on the other end. I think, she said, and her voice cracked. I don't know my husband as well as I thought. I'm sorry, Susan. So am I. She hung up. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired, like grief had found a new doorway into my house. The third sign came from the bank. A week later, Linda Chen called. Mrs. Patterson, she said, I wanted to update you. Mark Nguyen completed the audit package on your fraud case. I reached automatically for my notepad. It includes access history, change history, and the wire template activity, Linda continued. It's being sent to your attorney. And Adult Protective Services? I asked. Yes, she said. The bank is required to file a report when the pattern indicates possible elder exploitation. APS may contact you for a statement. There may also be a review by law enforcement, but I want to be careful. Review doesn't automatically mean charges. I exhaled slow. What happens now? 2 things, Linda said. 1, your new accounts remain secure. 2, we're tightening safeguards further. I need you to come in and sign new signature cards in person. It strengthens the file. I'll come today, I said. At the bank, Linda slid fresh forms across her desk, signature cards, my name printed cleanly, waiting for my hand to prove it belonged to me. I signed slowly, deliberately. Linda watched, then nodded. We've also added a verbal password, she said. No wires, no address changes, no credential resets without you present and verified. If anyone tries, we'll flag it. Thank you, I said, and meant it. When I left, Linda's card sat in my wallet like a small shield. The 4th sign came from my grandson. He was 10, Tyler, my son's oldest. I loved him more than anything I owned. He called on Saturday. Grandma? Tyler, I said. Hi, sweetheart. His voice sounded tight, like he'd been holding his breath all week. Grandma, why can't I see you anymore? My throat tightened. What do you mean? Dad said we can't come over. He rushed out. He said you're sick, confused, that you said mean things and we have to stay away until you get better. I closed my eyes. Tyler, I said gently, I'm not sick and I'm not confused. Then why did Dad say that? Because your dad and I are having a serious disagreement, I said. Sometimes adults need space. A pause. Is it because of money? He asked. Why do you ask that? I heard Mom and Dad fighting, he admitted. Mom said something about bank accounts. Dad said you were trying to take everything. Mom said that's not what the lawyer said. Then Dad left and didn't come home until late. I swallowed. Tyler, listen very carefully, I said. You are always welcome in my house, always, no matter what your dad says. Do you understand? Yes, he whispered. Good, I said. I need you to tell your mom something. Tell her if she wants to bring you to visit, she can. Tell her I'll make lunch. Okay, Grandma. I love you. I love you too. He hung up. I sat at my kitchen table and let myself cry. Not for me, for him. For the way adults can turn a child into a battleground without meaning to. But I didn't regret what I'd done. Because if I hadn't, there would have been nothing left. No house for Tyler to visit, no safety, no future to protect. 2 weeks later, Susan brought Tyler to see me. She called first. I said yes. They came on Sunday. I made sandwiches. Tyler ate 3. Susan barely touched hers. Margaret, she said, staring at her hands, I need to tell you something. I asked him to move out 2 days ago. He's staying with his brother. I'm sorry, I said, because even now some part of me mourned the man I thought I'd raised. Don't be, she said, hugged. You were right. About the accounts, the control. I asked to see everything. When he refused, I knew. She glanced into the living room where Tyler was working an old puzzle, like the world still made sense. I don't know what's going to happen, she said. Divorce, anything, but I can't live with someone I don't trust, and I don't trust him anymore. That's hard, I said. You know what's harder? Susan whispered. Knowing I let him convince me you were the problem, that you were confused. I believed him because it was easier. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Margaret. You're here now, I said. That matters. She looked toward Tyler again. Can we keep coming? Yes, I said. Any time. Even if he finds out? Especially if he finds out, I told her. After they left, I didn't pace my house the way I used to after his calls. I moved with purpose. I checked the locks. I touched the new safe, clean, solid, and finally mine. Then I drove to the bank and went straight to the vault. A safe deposit box with my name on it. Only my name. I placed the originals inside: deed, will, trust, the limited power of attorney, my husband's note, and closed the metal door with a soft click that felt like a boundary made physical. Driving home, I thought about my son, about the man he'd become, and what he'd tried to take: my house, my money, my dignity, my name. He'd taken nothing, and his carefully built reputation fell faster than the safe lock. 3 months passed. I settled into a routine that felt almost ceremonial. Every Monday morning, I logged into my bank account. I checked the balances. I scanned each transaction. Every password was mine. Every security question belonged to a memory my son didn't own. Every alert came to my phone, my hand, my decision. I paid my own bills. I managed my own investments. After 3 years of being locked out, the quiet of being back in control felt unfamiliar. Like stepping into a house after a storm and realizing the walls were still standing. I got used to it. Jim Bradshaw called once a month to check in. He told me the district attorney had declined to file charges at this time. Without executed wires and with the forged documents caught before they were used, the case was being treated as a protective matter. Bank safeguards, formal notice, a paper trail that could be reopened if my son escalated. I wasn't hoping for a courtroom, I told Jim. I know, he said. You were hoping for your life back. Susan and Tyler visited every other Sunday. We ate lunch. We played board games. We talked about school and work and normal things. We didn't talk about my son until Tyler asked once, eyes serious in a way 10-year-olds shouldn't have to be. Are you mad at Dad forever? I shook my head. Your dad and I aren't speaking right now. Maybe someday we will, but not today. He nodded, like he understood more than I wanted him to. My son tried to call twice. I didn't answer. He sent a letter. I didn't open it. Jim told me to keep it sealed, postmark, envelope, everything. So I filed it with the certified mail receipts and the bank case packet and locked it away. In the safe deposit box, the originals sat where my husband had always meant them to sit, out of reach of anyone who claimed love as a reason to take. Eleanor still waved from her yard. She still asked if I needed anything. I always said no, but thank you. I wasn't isolated. I wasn't alone. I had boundaries now, clear ones. I wasn't cruel. I was clear. And for the first time in years, my house felt like mine again. I could breathe. 6 months later, Tyler spent the weekend. We looked at old photos, made pancakes, and stayed up too late watching movies. On Sunday, before he left, I showed him the new safe. Your grandfather told me, I said, always keep the originals safe. Never let anyone else hold the only copy. Why? He asked. Because originals are proof, I told him. Proof of who you are, what you own. And sometimes even people you love will reach for that proof because control feels easier than trust. Tyler looked up at me. Grandma, are you going to be okay? I smiled, not big, just sure. Yes, sweetheart, I already am. I was 75. I'd been dismissed, doubted, almost stripped of my own name. But paperwork doesn't care who shouts the loudest. The truth holds its shape. If any part of this felt familiar, please share it with someone who needs it. And if you've lived something like this, tell me in the comments. Like and subscribe so you don't have to go through it alone.